Hello everyone. Today me, Murad Mahmudov and my groupmate Huseyn Aliyev are going to present the aspects of nuclear energy. First, what is nuclear energy? Nuclear power is the use of nuclear reactions that release nuclear energy to generate heat, which most frequently is then used in steam turbines to produce electricity in a nuclear power plant. Nuclear power can be obtained from nuclear fission, nuclear decay, and nuclear fusion reactions. Presently, most of the electricity from nuclear power is produced by nuclear fission of uranium and plutonium. Nuclear decay processes are used in niche applications such as radioisotope thermoelectric generations. What is renewable energy? Renewable energy is useful energy that is collected from renewable resources which are naturally replenished on a human timescale, including carbon natural sources like sunlight, wind, rain, tides, waves, and geothermal heat. The term often also encompasses biomass as well, whose carbon natural status is under debate. This type of energy source stands in contrast to fossil fuels, which are being used far more quickly than they are being replenished. Renewable energy often provides energy in four important areas: electricity generation, air and water heating or cooling, transportation, and rural energy services. Is nuclear energy sustainable or renewable? Nuclear power is presently a sustainable energy source but could become completely renewable if the source of uranium changed from mine ore to seawater. Since U extracted is continuously replenished through geologic process, nuclear would become as endless as solar. But do renewable and sustainable mean the same thing in the energy world? Not necessarily. As Professor Jason Dano from the University of Calgary puts it, not everything renewable is sustainable, and in turn, not everything which is sustainable is necessarily renewable. Renewable literally means to make something new again. Any resource that nature replenishes with time, like the creation of wind or the growth of biological organisms for biomass or biofuels, is certainly renewable. Renewable energy means that the energy humans extract from nature will generally replace itself. On the other hand, a sustainable energy source can be maintained for a definable period, one whose total amount will last for the period of human history that needs it at the rate it's being used or expected to be used. It may or may not be renewed at some rate. Uh, when you hear the words clean energy, what comes to mind? Most people immediately think of solar panels or wind turbines, but how many of you thought of nuclear energy? Nuclear energy is often left out of the clean energy conversation, despite it being the second largest source of low carbon electricity in the world behind hydropower. So, just how clean and sustainable is nuclear? Nuclear energy protects air quality, nuclear energy's land footprint is small, and nuclear energy produces minimal waste. The evidence over 6 decades shows that nuclear power is a safe means of generating electricity. The risk of accidents in nuclear power plant is low and declining. The consequences of an accident or terrorist attack are minimal compared with other commonly accepted risks. Nuclear energy has no place in a safe, clean, sustainable future. Nuclear energy is both expensive and dangerous, and just because nuclear pollution is invisible doesn't mean it's clean. Renewable energy is better for the environment, the economy, and doesn't come with the risk of a nuclear meltdown. That was cons of that these were the cons of the nuclear energy. Also, there are examples like high-profile disasters in Chernobyl, Ukraine in 1968, and Fukushima in Japan in 2011 have raised public awareness of the dangers of nuclear power. Now, my groupmate Huseyn Aliyev will continue to talk about aspects of nuclear energy. Thanks for your attention.
Hi everyone, now I will continue with the advantages and disadvantages of the nuclear energy. There are many pros and cons of nuclear energy, and it's important to understand both sides to get an idea of what this energy resource is capable of. Knowing the pros and cons of nuclear energy will help decide whether this energy resource is a good decision for our future energy needs and for the planet. Now let's talk about the advantages. Nuclear power reactors do not produce any carbon emissions, and also one of the biggest benefits of nuclear energy is that it's a reliable power generation source, unlike solar and wind energy, which need the sun to be shining or the wind to be blowing. Nuclear power can be generated at any time throughout the day. This means that a nuclear power plant can produce energy non-stop. Although building nuclear power plants has a high initial cost, it's relatively cheap to produce energy from them and they have low operating costs. Nuclear energy also has the capacity to meet city and industrial needs with just one reactor. Nuclear power plants are also more resilient than other forms of energy production during natural disasters. For example, hurricanes can destroy solar and wind farms, but they're less likely to damage the reinforced buildings that house nuclear plants. These were the advantages. However, nuclear power also has some drawbacks. Despite being relatively inexpensive to operate, nuclear power plants are incredibly expensive to build. Although accidents are rare, they can still occur. And although accidents are rare, if an accident were to occur, the effects from the radioactive waste in an uncontrolled situation are detrimental to humans and the ecology. Although nuclear energy production doesn't create any emissions, it does produce radioactive waste that must be securely stored so it doesn't pollute the environment as it is very dangerous. Nuclear power plants have a greater impact on the environment than just the waste they produce. The mining and enrichment of uranium are not environmentally friendly processes as it is known for releasing arsenic and radon, which has a negative impact on the health of those living around uranium mines. Nuclear power is also a unique threat to national security. Terrorists might target nuclear power plants with the intention of creating a disaster, and the uranium used to produce the power can be turned into nuclear weapons. So, security surrounding nuclear materials and nuclear power plants is extremely important. Moreover, one of the most important considerations to keep in mind is that nuclear energy is dependent on uranium and thorium to produce energy, and unless there is a way to create nuclear fusion or build breeder reactors before supply dries up, it will be unable to create energy with nuclear power plants that is built for the future. Now I will briefly describe one of the terrible accidents, the Chernobyl accident, which happened in 1986 and was the result of a flawed reactor design that was operated with inadequately trained personnel. The Chernobyl disaster was a unique event and the only accident in the history of commercial nuclear power where radiation-related fatalities occurred. The accident caused the largest uncontrolled radioactive release into the environment ever recorded for any civilian operation, and large quantities of radioactive substances were released into the air for about 10 days. This caused serious social and economic disruption for large population in Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine. However, some very tangible practical benefits have resulted from the Chernobyl accident. The main ones concern reactor safety, notably in Eastern Europe. For example, the US Three Mile Island accident in 1979 had a significant effect on Western reactor design and operating procedures. While that reactor was destroyed, all radioactivity was contained as designed and there were no deaths or injuries. A repetition of the Chernobyl accident is now virtually impossible, according to a German Nuclear Safety Agency report. Now I will talk about the future of nuclear energy. Modern nuclear energy technology is a carbon neutral solution to the growing worldwide demand for electricity. One key way to make strides toward a healthy future is by switching to alternative energy resources, including nuclear energy. With continuous efforts to advance technologies, nuclear energy will become more safe and efficient than it ever has before. If we can learn to control atomic fusion, we could practically have unlimited energy. At the moment, this method has some serious challenges that need to be worked out if we are to start using them on a larger scale. However, the potential it has is important to keep in mind when thinking about the energy generation in the future. Thanks for your attention.